Good evening. Today we're going to discuss mainly about the May visa bulletin that's been released in the morning, and we're going to discuss about the delays in the labor certification process and how to cope up when your 6-year limit is coming to an end. We're also going to discuss about the I-140 approval after you leave the employment. And the last thing, but the least thing, is once you file the 485 application, that's adjustment of status, if you plan to travel, what are the things that you need to take care of? These are the things that we're going to discuss today. Emily, May visa bulletin, any surprises for you?
No, I think that was totally expected. You know, we have been saying that we should be seeing continued progress for both EB2 and EB3 so that the final action date will eventually hit the filing date by September, and we seem to be close to maintaining that track.
So it seems that EB2 has moved by 3 months and EB3 has moved by 5 months. So they're about the track that it's going to be there for the priority date to touch the final action dates by September of 2020. That's what the State Department has predicted. Emily, we also are expecting that the priority dates to move much more forward in the month of June, in the month of July, in the month of August, in the month of September. We are expecting that the USCIS are going to adjudicate the 485 applications without any interview process. We have seen an aggressive move with regards to the biometrics for the people who filed in October. Not everybody who filed in October did get the biometrics, but a significant number of them got the biometrics done already right now. I've noticed a very significant number of people, Emily, in the EB1C category, where the final action dates are current, where we filed the 485 application in 2020. October already got their green card approved. Now we see a significant movement in the EB2 though. We may expect some approvals starting in May though, for the applicants that we filed in October of 2020. Although I do suspect that once the final action date hits May of 2011 though, for the EB3, I'm not expecting much more advanced than EB2 though. What do you say on that?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that with all of those downgrades, at some point the two dates are going to even out or kind of flip-flop back and forth over the coming months.
Yeah, going forward with, if you look into the Chinese nationals priority date though, what we noticed is that the dates of EB3 and EB2 moves very similar to the Los Angeles highways, the highways, and whichever one my client travels, that get blocked out, and then when I move to a different line, that get clogged out, and the line that I moved from always moves. It could happen that there may be a lot of flip-flopping happening because a lot of the people who have filed downgrade applications, they have their EB2 still alive. I mean, they can still switch it to EB2 by filing an interfiling of those things without filing another 485 application. So if we see by any chance though that EB2 is going to advance more, a lot of these people will move from EB3 to EB2, then this will move. It's going to be confusing. Sometimes I recommend clients that, hey, don't keep on flip-flopping. The USCIS takes a long time to change its position, and then by the time it changes position, the other one might move. But guess what, Emily? I've gone so many times wrong in predicting the priority date. So it's up to the individuals how they would like to handle the situation. Emily, what are you expecting in October of 2021? Because now we see that the priority dates are moving according to what the State Department has said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we know this October we're going to have even more green card availability than we did last October in 2020, more green cards available for employment-based due to the spillover from family-based that we talked about last week. As far as, what dates can we possibly predict? As we say all the time, we are wrong so many times on predicting priority dates. I do think we will see a significant jump. Will it be the same level that it was last October? While we have more green cards available, we also, I think, have more people in line in the coming years.
You mean to say after 2015?
Yeah, I mean, if you look
Because
at the number of labor certification filings, they keep going up and up and up.
If I look into the number of the dates that has moved, Emily, in October of 2020, it almost moved like 4 years and 11 months for EB2, 4 years and 11 months for EB3, and it moved almost like about 2.5, almost like 1 year and 8 months for EB2 though. And EB3 is 4 years and 11 months, almost 4 years and 11 months. So now we have more number, that is like instead of 100,000 is 135,000, and then maybe up to 150 because based on how the consulates are behaving right now. So, but you're still saying that it may not be that drastic a 4 years and 11 months movement.
Right, that's my guess.
4 years and 11 months from 2015 is actually going to be almost like 2020.
Yeah.
I hope we're wrong, but at least there should be a significant improvement in the filing dates, especially in October of 2021. So if you guys are planning to change the company, please don't change the company. This is not the right time if you already have a labor or I-140 approval. But if you don't have a labor or I-140 approval, going back to the old company or trying to expedite your labor certification, there is no premium processing, but at least if your lawyer can file it faster, that may be the best opportunity for you to get in to the priority date so that you can be able to file the 485 application. Also, you may want to check with your law firm to see if they're going to look into all the details, is your birth certificates, any problems that you may have. Try to rectify all those things before you go into the September of 2021. Because last September of 2021, most of the experienced lawyers practically closed their doors saying that no, we can't take anymore, we can't handle it. Now, of course, things have improved a lot. People have made better systems. We're more prepared right now than compared to 2010, most of the experienced immigration lawyers. But still, I advise all the people, if your priority date is anywhere between before 2018 or maybe up to 2019, definitely make sure that everything is all right for you to file an application. You may also want to check with your company's lawyer, company, to see if they are willing to downgrade the application from EB2 to EB3. If not, what are the actions that need to be taken? What did they do with the batch of 2020? Did they downgrade it for all the people, your company, or they did not downgrade it for all the people? So you may take actions based on that to see where you stand at. I would definitely say that this is not the right time to change the company for sure, but it's better that you be educated on this one and take an educated decision whether you want to, what you want to do, and documentation that need to be get. Anything else I'm missing on the 4-8 family?
Nope, I think, best thing is to start preparing now.
Then comes the question of, Emily, the labor certification. What I'm noticing right now is that the labor certification of approvals that I've seen yesterday and today are actually filed in September 2nd week. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April, so that's approximately 7 months of time that it's taking, more than 7 months of time that it's taking to get the labor certification approval, which used to take only 3 months before. Then we do have the prevailing wage that's taking approximately 4.5 to 5 months right now to get the prevailing wage, which used to take only 2 months before. So a time period of approximately, if they start from the beginning, if everything goes well for them, and we're speaking about at least 14 to 18 months to get their labor certification approval if everything goes smooth. What should they do if they're maxing out on the 6th year of H-1B?
Yeah, you have to start looking at backup plans. What would you do if you could not get your labor certification approved in time or your I-140 approved in time? We recommend always that you file your labor certification at least 365 days before your max out date. So even if the labor certification takes longer than 365 days to process, you're still eligible at least for that 1 year extension beyond the 6-year limit. But if you're already past that 365 day window and you're needing to buy time, recapturing time spent outside the U.S. You may already have taken into account your travel currently, but you could take additional trips to build up more recapture time between now and your max out date. That's one option. Another option, depending on the timing, perhaps you could stay outside the country and work remotely until you get to the point where your I-140 is approved, and then your company can file an H-1B petition, consular processing, not subject to the cap, and receive a 3-year approval so that you can get the visa stamp and come back to the US while you wait for your priority date to become current. So either recapture or staying outside until you get the I-140 approved, and filing a consular processing H-1B may be some options.
Emily, on the I-140 approval, I want to educate a lot of people, though, even though they are aware of it. What's the exact rule for the I-140 approval if an employee leaves the company after the I-140 is approved? When can he use the I-140 to apply for the H-1B transfer, H-1B extension with a different company after he leaves the company? And when can he apply for porting the dates from that company to another one? Can he still use the I-140 approval for filing an H-4 EAD when he is not working for the same company that filed for the I-140?
Yeah, the biggest risk with the approved I-140 and you leave the company is the employer going to withdraw that approved I-140? When a company does withdraw, the outcome of that withdrawal changes depending on the timing. So if the withdrawal occurs before the I-140 has been approved for 180 days, you don't get to port that priority date with a future company. You don't get to use that I-140 approval for H-4 EADs. You have to start the process over with the new employer, and you can't use it for continued H-1 extensions. So that tells us really you're losing out on a lot of benefits if you leave that employer too soon. So once the I-140 is approved, best practice is to wait 180 days before you take any kind of action. Once you cross that 180-day mark, the company can still withdraw your approved I-140. However, the I-140 remains valid for you to use it for continued H-1B extensions with another employer. You get to keep your priority date, and you can use it for spouse H-4 EAD renewals, even if the previous employer withdraws that I-140. However, what you still have to do is file a new labor and new I-140 with your new company so that you will be eligible for the 485, because you cannot use that old withdrawn I-140 to file the 485 with the new employer.
And let's discuss about the travel plans of the people who filed the 485 application. Now, there are two kinds of people who are on the 485 adjustment of status that have travel plans. One set of people are where they already have an advance parole approval and they have a travel plans. If they have an advance parole approval and they do have a non-immigrant visa which is already stamped in the passport, they can use either of those options to come back into the United States. Obviously, H1, L1, L2, or H4 will be a better option for them to come back, but they can use the advance parole also to come back into the United States. Now, for the people whose advance parole is not approved, if you're traveling outside the country and you're planning to come back, you can travel outside the country, but technically speaking, your advance parole is considered to be automatically denied. And you cannot use it even if it's approved after you leave the country. You will have to completely rely on your H1B and H4 to come back into the United States, or L1A or L1B to come back, L1 or L2 for you to come back into the United States. If you don't have a stamping though, you have to go for stamping, and you know the drop box rule, and you also need to be very well aware of what's going on in the consulate though, for the drop box and also on the consulate appointments. So if you don't get the stamping though, you will get stuck in there. You may not be available for biometrics. Your 485 might be denied. So please be careful in all these things what you're doing right now, especially if you're traveling to the countries that have been most affected by COVID. In the second wave, there are a lot of consulates that have because of this, the state or the city where the consulates are located are having a lockdown, they may not be functional for giving the lockbox, Dropbox, or to go for a personal appointment. I mean, you were saying some experience about some guy stuck from March of 2020 in the morning with me, and he's stuck there for like 1 year. The appointments are getting canceled very frequently. So be prepared for all these things, guys, especially if you are in the 485 application. I strongly recommend wait until the advance parole is approved. Then if you go for stamping, if by any chance some problem occurs, you can always come back and advance parole. Any other suggestions on the 485 travel?
Yeah, and make sure that if you don't have your advance parole and you are relying on your H-1B or H-4 or L-1 or L-2, you have to be maintaining that status at the time you exit and also come back in that status. If for some reason you're planning on traveling because of there's a status issue with your H1 or L1, for example, you could end up abandoning your adjustment of status if you travel in that situation without the advance parole. So anytime there's a status issue, be sure to check with your attorney before making any travel plans, even if you have, especially when you have the 485 pending.
Pradeep has this question from YouTube and Facebook. Same Pradeep has posted in both the places. He's asking, my employer is not willing to do the premium processing of the I-140. Can I hire another law firm to do it? No, it has to be done only by your company's lawyer or the authorized person from the company. You cannot approach the private lawyers to do the premium processing for your I-140. You've indicated that the company doesn't know, doesn't have an idea, clue about doing premium processing. Well, damn hell, they know how to do it. They just don't want to do it for you, Pradeep. That's all. They all know how to do it. What do you mean? They have been filing H-1Bs, I-140s, and they don't know how to do premium processing? They know it. They just don't want to do it for you. Mag from has a question. Can the birth certificate be given for the Indian consulate in USA for 485? According to the Foreign Affairs Manual, though, the birth certificate has to be given from the proper authorities. That means, according to the Foreign Affairs Manual, it is the local city, or in some cases it's mandal, in some cases in India we call panchayat, and in some cases it's a municipality or corporation, depending on where you're born at. That is the proper authority to give a birth certificate, not the Indian consulate, though. Now, in case you don't have your birth registered in those particular places that I mentioned, though, you could get a non-availability certificate from the consulate and try to obtain 2 affidavits, though. I have put a link, I have put details on what this non-availability should look like, what a birth affidavit should look like, and it's available at rnlawgroup.com. If you search birth affidavit, you will find it out, and based on that you can obtain those documents. And as I was mentioning before, I strongly recommend, if you have any problem, try to rectify it right now, not in September of 2020. If you want, you can consult. I'm a licensed lawyer in India also, just in case if you want to know Mac. So you can consult me if you want more details. And the link is provided at the bottom if you want to consult me, Emily, or anybody else. Our timings are there, and you can just block any time you want to discuss any of the options that you may have.
Srikanth from YouTube wants to know how are H-1B transfers at the Vermont Processing Center. H-1B transfers generally are taking anywhere from 4 to 8 months in regular processing right now. Premium processing is available and oftentimes recommended for transfers so that you can join the new company once the petition is approved. But as far as processing, we're not seeing any unusual delays or any unusual requests for evidence for H-1Bs right now.
Questions are asked about the predicting the priority dates. Definitely the priority dates are expected to move forward, though. This is based on the State Department, who has the authority and who has the responsibility to control the priority date, and according to them the priority dates are expected to advance very significantly, almost to January of 2015 for the EB3 cases. So we'll have to see. I mean, They said may move up to. So we may expect some significant movements in the coming months though. That's the reason why we've been suggesting people that if you have not upgraded the I-140, you need to upgrade the premium processing. USCIS is adjudicating the 485 or adjustment of status application, even though they are not interviewing, they are adjudicating. But for them to adjudicate it, there are a couple of things that need to be there. One, the final action date has to be correct. Second, the medicals have to be done there. If you don't have the medicals, we are recommending interfiling. Now, there are some lawyers who are telling not to. I'm not telling that they're wrong. I'm not telling that they're wrong. I'm not. But it is our advice to do the interfiling for the medicals. The third thing is that the I-140 has to be approved. If the I-140 is not approved, they cannot grant you. The fourth thing is the biometrics have to happen. There are two things in your hand, which is I-140 premium processing and the medicals. But the rest of the things, final action date and the biometrics are not in your hand. But at least you cover those two. If the rest of the two happen, there's a good chance that you will get a green card without you getting interviewed. We are not noticing that the applications filed before or even in October for EB1C are getting adjudicated without getting an interview.
Prashant from YouTube wants to know, after filing the 485 and the biometrics are done, if the spouse needs to travel to India on a valid H4, would the EAD also get abandoned? No, the EAD application is not abandoned due to travel, just the advance parole is. So that will continue to be processed while she's outside the U.S.
Question from Bikram Ghosh. My EB2 I-140 is approved, prior date is August 2015. Do you think I'll be able to submit the 485 this year? Maybe not, but I do expect that you should be able to file somewhere in October of 2021. And that, according to me, is not this year. Why? Technically, for the USCIS, the year ends on September 30th. And we are immigration lawyers, so for us, year ends in September 30th. So our new year is October 1st, not January 1st. So that's the reason I said most probably you would be able to. I may be wrong, but most probably that is my expectation.
Hetty from Facebook received an RFE for the I-485 Supplement J. This was previously submitted back in 2018, and the job has not changed since then, and wants to know, can we submit the previous I-485J for the current RFE? No, I do not recommend that. The purpose of this RFE is for USCIS to confirm that that job offer is still there, not that it was there in 2018. So submitting an old Supplement J is not going to prove that the job offer exists today.
Siddharth Shed has this question. His H4 extension biometric is still pending with the USCIS. Can I still go ahead and file a H4 EAD? Absolutely you can. If your H4 is pending, you don't have to wait for the H4 approval to file for the H4 EAD. If you're eligible for H4 EAD, you should file for the H4 EAD. Going back to the Emily's question on the RFE and 485J supplement, especially for the people who have filed on or before April of 2012. Oops, did I say 2012? Yes. There are a lot of applications. There are some applications that were filed in April of 2012 that are still not adjudicated. Because the priority date was May 1st of 2010, only in the month of April they became current again after 9 years. So when an RFE is issued for them for the 485J supplement, I mean, that is the best thing. I like it. The reason is that they're not going to adjudicate this application unless the medicals are being submitted. When they ask for medicals, they also ask for 485J supplement. In some cases, they are going to ask for G325 too. So when this kind of RFE comes in, I normally like it. The reason I like it is that because that means the officer is working. Once we submit the RFE, there's a good chance that my case is going to get approved. So these RFEs are the best thing that I like. I also suggest some of my clients, hey, don't wait for the RFE to submit the 485J supplement medicals and G325. Let's take voluntarily submit it in the interfiling. And if they ask it, we can have it freshly made again, have it signed by the employer and submit again. The reason is that when the officer opens the file and says medicals are expiring, I cannot give the green card. So that's when I normally submit for my clients well in advance. When the priority date becomes current, hey, let's assume that there is an RFE and then let's submit it. You can do that. I mean, I'm not telling that your lawyer is wrong if they don't do it, but this is our strategy, how we approach the 485, so that we are giving well in advance to the officer, hey, you have everything right now. You don't have to come back and ask for an RFE, take time. You can adjudicate the application of the 485.
Kieran from YouTube had the I-539 fingerprinting completed in March and still no action on the case then, and wants to know what should be done, how long will it take after the fingerprints. So it really depends on when the I-539 was filed. If it's still within the normal processing time, there's not really anything you can do because you can't raise a service request until it's outside normal processing time, even if the biometrics are completed. You could try to do an expedite request based on any of the 4 criteria on the USCIS website. But for the I-539, there's not a lot of criteria that would fit a pending I-539 need to adjudicate because you're legally allowed to remain in the country while it's pending. You're not losing anything. Now, I understand if you had an EAD along with it, that could be an issue. But even with that, USCIS is rarely expediting those. So unfortunately, we don't have a good solution to that. We do have a class action lawsuit pending. We are getting more and more traction of this issue in the national media. There's been a lot of articles floating around lately, and that does help put pressure on USCIS to resolve this issue. So we are hopeful that this is not going to continue on a long-term basis, but for right now, we just have to sit tight.
For a lot of people asking the same question about the I-140 premium processing, guys, hey, you can have your employers contact us and we'll be able to take care of the premium processing. But we cannot do it if you solely contact. It has to be employer that should contact us to file for the premium processing. Question from Kaushik, very good question. Dates are moving very fast. Do you foresee any retrogression in future? If so, when? Kaushik, you may have been right 99% of the time, but not this time. The reason is that, now we have noticed that, I've told that May 1st, 2010 was the final action date in April of 2012. Now we are in April of 2021, 9 years afterwards, it's still May 1st. That means that it had retrogressed and it came back again after 9 years. Now Kaushik, having said that though, this is a different timing than the previous thing. We have, the Indians in particular, have almost extra 100,000 green cards available for the EB2 and EB3 this year in 2020. And we are expecting about 130,000, 35,000 or even more in 2020, starting from October of 2021. So because of the numbers are humongous that will be given to the Indians, we are not expecting a retrogression in the final action dates, especially going forward from now all the way to about May of 2021. We are not expecting the final action date to be retrogressed. Having said that, we have gone wrong many times, not telling that we're right, but based on how the things are, we are not expecting the retrogression. A lot of people, Emily, I'm speaking about these people whose practice is 2018, 2019, I'm having consultations, and they're like, they are not even thinking that they can get a green card. They haven't even entered into this country thinking that they're going to get the green card. We told them.
I was going to say, we've been telling them that for the last 3-4 years.
Last 3-4 years, we've been telling that green card is 100 years. And no, we are wrong. Cato Institute is right. It's 150 years. Yes, we made all these statements. But when it happens, this extra 100,000 coming into, and these all 100,000 mostly going to Indian nationals, and then extra 135,000, most, if not all 135,000 extra green cards going to Indian nationals, yes, we do expect the final action date to move very much forward for Indians. The way it works is that why is this 100,000 green cards will only go to Indian nationals, or mostly will go to Indian nationals? There's nobody else there who wants to take it. There's nobody. That's the reason they are being given to Indian nationals. And same thing is true in starting from October 1st of 2021. There's nobody else are expected to be there. It's only Indian nationals who've been waiting there. So since there is nobody else there, they will have to give to the Indian nationals. That's the reason why the priority dates are expected to go forward, most probably are not expected to retrogress as it used to happen historically, especially from 2012, boom, all the way to 2021, it was a retrogression, but from 2021, at least until May of 2022, or even until September of 2022, we are not expecting retrogression at all.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, that's kind of a major reason that we have the two charts in the visa bulletin. That started in October of 2015, and it was intended to avoid the whiplash back and forth of the final action date moving. There was no final action date. It was just the chart, and it would go forward and retrogress and forward and retrogress based on the demand of who was filing. Now we have the filing dates chart those dates go way forward. They don't necessarily go backwards. They go forward, and then USCIS says, okay, stop using those dates. That's their version of retrogression now, is we're not going to allow you to use the filing date chart for a number of months, and then that should open up again in October.
Yeah, this question, there were people are asking, Vijaya was asking this question, why are they not using filing dates? Yeah, most probably they won't use the filing dates, because there are too many applications in the pipeline, especially for this year to be adjudicated until September of 21 until September of 2021. So there's a good chance that the filing dates may not open, at least for the next, I'm not
I don't expect it till October.
Yeah, we're not expecting the filing dates to be open until October of 2021. Hope we're wrong, but that's what we're expecting.
Madhukar from YouTube wants to know, if we give the biometrics for a pending 485, will USCIS consider them for the pending H4 too? We've been experimenting with this. We have a number of people where we filed the I-539 application and filed the 485 application, and people are getting the biometrics for the 485 and not the I-539. Once we get that notice and they've actually gone for biometrics, we've tried sending in those biometrics notices to the I-539 service center where that's pending and asking them to reuse the same. I don't know if we have any outcomes of that yet, but we have been experimenting with various ways to try to get them to use previous biometrics in the new H4 filing.
If a person gets an RFE in the medical records, how long does the USCIS takes to act once we submit the medical records? Normally, whenever they are issuing an RFE and medical records, I really like it. I mean, that means they are working on the file. They really want to adjudicate the file. So what they do is that they pre-adjudicate the files before the priority date becomes current. And the priority date becomes current, they press a button, you get the green card. It's called pre-adjudication. And when they see that the priority dates are moving forward and your final action dates are about to get current, and this active, nice, hardworking officer is going to look into the file, I don't see the medical, or I see the medicals expire, he's issuing an RFE, which is a very good thing. And that means that he's ready to adjudicate. I want to, Lakshmi of Facebook, I want to let you know that when we are receiving the RFE for the family cases, which are a must interview though, they are not telling us to submit the medical summary. What they're telling is that, hey, either you can submit the medical or you can bring it to the interview. When it comes to the employment based, they're not giving that option. Submit the RFE response, which is actually very good. I like it. I mean, I don't want to get my client going to the interview. I want it to be approved without going for the interview. So that is a good news for a lot of people. I haven't seen a single RFE that is coming on the medical saying that, hey, you can either submit it or bring it to the 485 interview. They are not telling it, which is actually a very good thing. I think so they already made a predetermination that they are not going to conduct 485 status interviews if once the final action date become current. Now there will be 2% or 3% of the people that will be either randomly selected. Sometimes they may have a small criminal records that may require them to go for the interview. Even if they have a DUI or something like that, typically that will almost all the time will go for the interview process. Even though they have made a strategical decision not to interview, if there is a criminal record, it will be an interview.
Raj Sri has a question. His I-140 is approved and his wife is completing the DS-160 visa application to get her H-4 visa. And there's a question in that application that asks, has an immigrant petition ever been filed on your behalf? The same question is in the I-539 application. He wants to know, do I answer yes because I have an approved I-140? So for the I-539 application as well as for the H-4 who's applying for the DS-160 application, it's asking, has she ever had an immigrant petition filed on her behalf? An immigrant petition refers to an I-130 or an I-140. If she does not have her own I-140 sponsored by her employer or an I-130 filed by a relative, she answers that question no. You would answer that question yes because you had an I-140 filed on your behalf. I get that question quite a lot about the I-539 application form as well as the DS-160.
Questions are asking with regards to what is the normal time to adjudicate the EB2 to EB3 downgrade for I-140? Is it 7 months? Historically, what we have noticed is that whenever it's a downgrade application, that means that we are using the old labor certification to file for a fresh I-140 application, unless it's a premium processing though. It definitely takes longer than the 7 months period or whatever time period that they're mentioning. They don't honor it when it comes to they won't honor it the same timing if it's a downgrade application. That's the reason it's absolutely essential that I request all the people to do the premium processing. Now, are there any rejections in the premium processing? Yes, there are. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You just have to refile it again. It doesn't affect the underlying I-140 application. It doesn't affect the 485 application. They don't want to take your $2,500. You have to keep on telling, buddy, take my $2,500. Uh-oh, I'm not going to take it. Well, I'm going to give it to you again. There are some cases where filed 6, 7 times and later on that got accepted. So you have to keep trying and they will accept it.
Hillary from YouTube has filed the I-485 with a downgrade from EB2 to EB3, and the receipt notice for the 485 has the priority date blank and wants to know, is there any issue with that? How are they going to find my 485 application to process? Very common, no issue at all with the priority date being blank on the 485 receipt notice or if it being wrong on the 485 receipt notice. It's very common, nothing to worry about. USCIS has it in their system what the actual priority date is.
What is the success rate for EB1 for India? I normally don't like to say depends on the situation. I would say, yeah, it's 50% chance. That's the stats normally. When you're embarking on a journey of going outside the country for the whole purpose of getting the EB1 approved, where you're moving the entire family outside the country, when the chances are lower though, I definitely would like to consult a lawyer, go through the entire aspects of the company, the position, to see what are the, because it all depends on the position, employer, a lot of different things. Is it worth for you to move all these things to go outside only to get the EB1C approval? You may want to evaluate that with the especially high rate of denials. Now, is EB2 and EB3 as the same high rate of denials? Absolutely not. I mean, the rate of denials for EB2 and EB3 is way, way, way less. Question, I'm on H1B, Harsh Jasti. Can I get a 1099 for a rental income? Absolutely you can. No problem with it. When people are renting, especially the companies, they do give a 1099s for a rental income, it's not a violation of the H-1B though. Now, if the 1099 is for other reasons though, then it's a different issue. But if it's a rental income, I do not see that as a problem.
Sheetal from Facebook wants to know if the passport is expiring in 2022, but the H-4 is approved to 2023, can the visa stamping be given until 2023 instead of 2022? Yes, it can. They can issue the visa for the full period of the approval notice, not necessarily just the passport. But when you come into the U.S., if your passport is expiring before your I-797 or visa is expiring, they will cut short your I-94 to match the passport expiration date. So you have to be very careful to check your I-94 as soon as you come in to make sure you're aware which date they gave you, and either travel again after you get the passport renewed or file an extension with USCIS.
Nomadic Hyderabad has, I do not have birth certificate, however I have two affidavits. And is it getting, I have two affidavits, and can I get a non-availability for the certificate from the US consulate? Well, US consulate does not issue the, US consulate does not issue the non-availability certificate though. It has to be issued by the local government. And Nomadic Hyderabadi, you said you do not have a birth certificate. I want you to Google in, I do not have birth certificate, rnlaggroup.com. There's an article titled exactly the question that you have. I do not have birth certificate in our website. So please Google it, or do not have birth certificate, rnlaggroup. You will get the article, and then I want you to study that so that you can make the judgment call on it.
Sen from Facebook wants to know if you're upgrading the I-140 to premium and they're returning it, it's because they need time to locate the original Perm approval. Does it help to submit a copy of the Perm with the premium upgrade? It does not, because they really do need the original, and that original is in a USCIS file. It's in your previous file, and they do have to grab that document from the old file and move it to the new file before they can actually process the case in premium. So having that copy does not serve any purpose. You already submitted that copy with the I-140.
Hemant Durrani has a question. Can we work from India while the EAD extension is pending? I'm assuming that it's the H4 EAD extension. The answer to the question is yes, you can work from India. I call the rule of butts. If your butt is in India, you're under Indian jurisdiction, so you definitely can work. With regards to the payroll being running from United States, I would definitely check with the CPA what is the proper way of doing it. But as far as the immigration laws are concerned, you're not violating any law whatsoever at all if you're staying in India and working for a US company when the H4 EAD extension is pending.
Mohan wants to know why USCIS is issuing biometrics for people with priority dates in 2014, but not for people with priority dates in 2011. I don't see that trend. I think that they're issuing them depending on the location and what's going on with the COVID situation in your location, how many application support center personnel they have, how big that office is. They have to spread out the appointments to allow for sanitizing and all of that. So you may be seeing a difference from one application support center to another, but I'm not seeing any difference based on priority date. I don't think they even know what the priority date is when they're scheduling biometrics. They just see you have a pending 485, let's send it for biometrics.
Santosh has this question. How long do you think so the EB1 will be current? I definitely think it will definitely be current until October of 2021 for sure. And this time though, I would say I would bet $1 on it. If I lose, I would donate it to Red Cross, $1. I don't bet more than that. I've been wrong in predicting the priority dates. I would have lost $10,000 if I were to bet all the things. So just $1. If I lose, I'm going to pay to Red Cross. So yeah, the priority date for EB1, I'm expecting it to be current, especially until October of 2021.
HP from YouTube wants to know, with an EB2 priority date in 2015, does it make sense to apply for the I-140 EB3 downgrade now versus at the time that the priority date actually becomes current? We definitely have people that are doing that proactively now, and it does make sense in terms of when you're filing that 485, your I-140 is already approved. That means the USCIS officer doesn't have to wait for anything to be able to adjudicate if the final action date is current, versus someone who's filed with the I-140. They have to wait until that I-140 is actually approved before they can actually hit the approve button on the 485. So it can delay if you file concurrently versus having the I-140 approved at the time of filing.
Emily, there are so many questions on the priority date expectation October of 2021. What's your guess? I see like 40 misses, 50 misses on the priority date guess.
I'm going to say somewhere in 2016, 2017 for EB3.
And how about EB2?
EB2, oh man, that one's tough. 2014, 2015?
I'm expecting the same thing for EB2.
Both? Yeah, that makes sense that it would be the
I'm
same.
expecting anywhere 2018. If you go back to our videos in August or September, early part of September, you can guess how wrong we were. Believe us, we were very wrong. We were only predicting the priority date to go only until 2011. We were wrong by 4 years. Hopefully so again. But yeah, Emily is between 2016 to 2018. That's what the expectation is. But what about 2019? If you are contemplating, if you're not doing anything, I would not do anything, but if you are contemplating changing the job, if you are in 2019 priority date though, this is what I would suggest you to do. Don't change the job. Wait until October of 2021 to make a decision. That's what I would suggest you to do, because believe us, Emily has gone wrong so many times. I think so that she's the second worst guesser in priority date that I know about. First being me. So don't just, these things are very hard to calculate. We go wrong very many times. We have gone, as I said, Emily is the second worst guesser in the priority date. So we may go wrong again. So I want you guys to be very proactive and try to have your labor certification approval ready. And if you have a priority date right now, don't make any moves until October. At that point of time, things will be a little bit more better.
Santosh from YouTube wants to know, can we do self-employment in a 485 Supplement J if the field is similar? Yes, you can. USCIS does specifically recognize that self-employment is an option for AC-21, which allows you to take the green card process with you to a new employer as long as you have your I-140 approved and your 485 has been pending for 180 days. The new employment has to be in the same or similar occupational category, but it can include self-employment. You do have to provide USCIS enough information about your self-employment business so that they can see that it is a legitimate business, but yes, that is an option.
Have you seen any downgrade I-140 approvals which are not filed in premium processing? I don't think so. I've seen anything which were filed in October of 2020, downgrade approvals. Have you seen I-140 approvals for the cases where we have done the premium processing? Yes, many of them. Have we seen any rejections of the premium processing that have been filed in October where we have tried to convert it later on? Yes, we have. But when we refiled, almost 90% of them got accepted. There are still 10% of the time that are still not getting accepted. We keep on refiling, but that's the trend right now, what is going on for the I-140 premium processing.
Barath from Facebook has a priority date in 2012, applied for the downgrade in October, still no biometrics, and wants to know if the final action date becomes current and still no biometrics, what can be done? You can call customer service at the 1-800 number, or you can submit an e-request for not receiving a document, and that might rattle the bushes enough for them to realize that they haven't scheduled you for biometrics yet. It could just be your location is not back up and running 100% due to COVID, but calling customer service or doing an e-request online should get things moving.
Prasad from YouTube has a very good question. His I-140 is still pending. The downgrade I-140 is still pending, and it's been pending for, and 485 has been pending for more than 180 days. His EB2 I-140 has been approved. Can I change my employer right now? No, you cannot change your employer if your I-140 is pending. Don't do that. Because if you do that, though, they may withdraw the I-140. Then your lawyer has to then argue that your I-140 was approvable at the time when it was filed. We may have to go to the federal court to get those things overturned by the USCIS. It's going to be very expensive. It is not a good advice for you to do that. If your only purpose is to live, to make money for the immigration lawyers, you can. But if your purpose is not, if your purpose is to be safe and get the green card, wait until the I-140 is approved. You don't have to wait 180 days after the I-140 is approved, but you have to wait until the I-140 is approved and the 485 has been pending for more than 180 days. For most of the people, or at least by the end of this month, for most of the people, it's been pending for more than 180 days. But you still need to wait for your I-140 to be approved before you make a move. Prasad has this question. My priority date is February 2008. I believe it's okay to change the employer. Please confirm. Prasad, I'm not going to answer your question, though. But let me tell you, if I were you, which at one point of time, I was one of the person who got the green card through employment based. I was not the primary applicant, though. I will not change the company right now. I may be wrong. I'm not telling you what to do. That's the reason I just tell people what I would do if I were you. Yes, as I said, Emily is the worst, second worst predictor of the priority date, but then I'm the first worst. I'm best in the worst, though, comparatively in predicting the priority date. So that's the reason I don't want to tell you anything. I just tell you what I would do if I were you.
Karthik from YouTube wants to know, in the event that you have to reschedule your biometrics appointment, how long does it take to get the new appointment?
Oh.
It can take a good 2 months, if not longer.
There are cases that have been rescheduled in January, and Emily, they're not still.
Yeah, if you can avoid rescheduling and actually get to your appointment, that's definitely the best
option.
option.
For the people who are in 485 application, I strongly recommend that they don't reschedule it. That may delay the entire green card process. You don't want that to happen. Question, applied AOS in October, no biometrics, APR EAD, what are my options? Well, if your I-140 is approved, though, if you want to change the company, you can still change the company, not a problem. Because even though I recommended people, and I strongly emphasize that the I-140 need to be approved before you change the company, not in the case if the EAD is not approved. The only thing is that you need to file a 485J supplement, but you have to also file for the H-1B transfer before you join another company. That's a condition that's there. We do expect that probably in the next 1 month or 2 months, most of these biometrics and EADs and advanced parole should be approved. They're catching up on that right now.
Santosh from Facebook wants to know, it's got an L1B and has an H1B approved with consular processing, and what is the option to get through consular processing without leaving the country? I'm assuming you mean to activate the H1B. So the employer that has the approved H1B can file a change of status from L1 to H1 using your approved H1B that's for consular processing. That would be the easiest way to do that, and it can be done in premium processing, but it has to be the employer that has the approved H1B.
too many questions about predicting the priority date. I'm just scrolling down the questions, guys, because we did answer those questions many times in this one.
Tanu from YouTube wants to know, I-765 and I-131 were received in October 2020. This is a downgrade case. Will doing an e-request about the processing times negatively impact the case? No, I mean, it's just an e-request, but they won't even accept an e-request until it's outside the normal processing time, and yours is well within the normal processing time, so there's really nothing to request at this point.
A lot of people ask this question, my date of birth has been registered way later than when I was born. Is that going to cause any problem? I haven't noticed a lot of RFEs on that. I do not want to submit anything else other than just submitting the birth certificate at this point of time. Just in case if they ask any RFE, you may have to submit the documents like affidavits, and maybe probably you have an Aadhaar card. The Indian nationals can submit the Aadhaar card, PAN card, election card, ration card, 10th certificate, if there is any hospital record, those things. So all those things can be supplemented in addition to the birth certificate if it's been registered later on. But I wouldn't submit them when I'm filing their 485 application. I would just keep it hold. Most probably they won't ask any questions, and if they ask any questions, RFEs, then I would submit it at that point of time.
Jiva wants to know, what are the current processing times for EAD and AP? I think they're anywhere from 5 to 13 months is the posted time.
Are you speaking about the 485 EADs or the?
Yeah, EAD and AP.
I've noticed some of them in 2 months, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 2 to 6 months is the time that I see.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too.
Yeah. Any update on Schedule A, Emily, and downgrade of I-140?
No updates. My cases are still pending, and I have not heard of any denials yet. I did mention previously that some people were receiving RFEs and notice of intent to deny, but I don't think we've gotten any decisions on those cases yet.
Is birth certificate requirement for dependent also? Yes, Sunil, that is right. It is absolutely a requirement. Now, is it, can you file the 485 application without birth certificate? Yes, you can file it, but I would always get the birth certificate. If you can't get the birth certificate, at least get 2 affidavits. And the format of that is provided in rnlawgroup.com, so you can get it from there.
Secret Santa noticed that the California Service Center processing time for AOS is 44 to 64 months. What are the options if the AOS was just filed last year, but the final action date is current? Well, I mean, although that is the posted processing time, and they won't accept an e-request due to outside normal processing time, they are adjudicating applications well faster than 44 months. We are, like Rahul has said, we are seeing some approvals from cases that were filed in September and October where the final action date is current. It really is not taking that long. I think that USCIS processing times are based on kind of an average of what they're seeing from the officer standpoint, but they're not always 100% accurate.
Yeah, they are not at all. I mean, yeah, you can't raise any side of history, but don't believe in those dates of 48 months. That is not true. In this case, they're very, very faster, unlike a couple of other things that are there.
Now, I looked up the processing time for an I-824 today, and it was anywhere from 12 months to 84 months.
Ooh, 84 months.
For a simple, I mean, the I-824 is one of the simplest things that you can apply.
You get approval. I mean, what are you going to do with after you get the I-94 already expired? I just, somebody need to sue them on that. Too many predictions of the priority date. Any other thing, Emily?
Let's see. Sudanshu wants to know, during the processing of an I-140, can I be on the H-4 while my spouse is on H-1B? Yes, you don't have to be in H-1B status to have an I-140 filed on your behalf. You don't even have to be in the U.S. to have an I-140 filed on your behalf. No issue with that at all.
We do have a conference call that is getting done every week for those people who have applied in the lottery and has got the lottery selected. We have provided the link at the description below, so you can go there. And also, if you want to speak with me, Emily, or any of our very talented colleagues that we have in our office, all our appointment schedules are available online. You can block your times based on what time you would like to. Our schedule is available online. The link is provided at the bottom. Do not forget that we do have a daily Zoom calls where you can come to our Zoom sessions. It's half an hour. Mostly I will take those things. You can ask the questions there and we'll answer the question. It's every working day. We've been conducting this daily Zoom conference calls from 2012 to right now. So you can attend any of those things. The links are provided at the bottom. But if there is anything that we can do, any improvement, please suggest us, give us the comments at the bottom, how we can do better to improve what we're doing for you. We would like to know the comments, any appreciations, anything, please mention at the bottom. We take those comments very seriously. Please, we appreciate your comments on how we are doing and what we can do to improve ourselves in serving you.
Thanks for joining.